Hello friends, I am Chevy. Welcome to my shed. How are you today? How's life in your world? How's things where you are? If you're in the United States, did you celebrate Labor Day today? How did you do that? Did you even get it off? I got all the prototypes over the weekend. All of my prototypes over the weekend. Everything that I'm presenting or hoping to present at Gen Con is present and accounted for. I've got 4 prototypes, and other than the mess up on the squirrel game, I don't notice any other mistakes. If you didn't watch on Friday the squirrel game, I misprinted all of the squirrel cards, so they all have to be reprinted. No big deal. So that will get reprinted at some point, and then I will have this ready for Gen Con. And I had a nice person on Discord that I met on Discord rewrite the rules. So this is ready. And all 3 of these I hope to find publishers for. But I think other than the squirrel game, all 3 of them are pretty big asks. Meaning that they all have their own reasons for existing in my game collection, but they're kind of a big, I'll tell you about it. So the squirrel game I think is publishable right now. Like, it's out of the box, a very, very playable game. It is a very, very light game. I've told people that I consider this to be like a half a step above Uno. It's Uno with a couple of actual decisions. And I think that's perfectly fine. And I think it's, you could print it just like this, and it's a neat little game. The train game, I think that's what's here. The train game is, I think, an awesome little 2-player train game. I finally got the original board. So this is the board that is on Tabletopia right now. I've got that board in. I also have designed and ordered 2 expansion maps. So this is Marshlands, and this is, what am I calling this? Not Golly, Gulches. So I've got Marshlands, Gulches, and Appalachia. 3 maps to show. I got in today the new contract cards. I got all of the money, which I designed the money, and I'm really, really happy with the way the money turned out. I made it single-sided so that you could play with hidden money if you want. I prefer hidden money in this game. I think that as a 2-player game, it plays a little bit better if you don't know exactly what the other person has. And new stock certificates, and then I went and made all of the wooden bits and pieces like starting company markers. There's some bridges, which is one of the maps requires the use of bridges. So this game is ready, and I think it's a very publishable product, but I think that I'm going to have a very hard time finding a publisher that would be willing to take a chance on a 2-player train game. Train games in general, difficult sell. 2-player, very difficult sell. So while I think this game is remarkable, and I think that if I showed it to people who aren't necessarily train gamers but enjoy that theme, they would love it. Utilities Project. This is a big game, right? It is a complex game. There are player boards that have unlockable actions that you can unlock. There's a large 6-fold board. There's 20-something meeples in 4 different player colors. There's 4 big decks of cards. There's resource goals. There's markers very similar to the train game, that each city kind of gets seeded with one of the utility types at the start of the game. There's some wooden bits. These don't have to be wood, but they're so much cooler if they are. It's a big game in a sense that it's nearly perfect information. It's not perfect information. It's close. There are decks of cards that kind of make your resource gathering a bit varied. But other than that, the rest of the game is completely open, and it's a lengthy game. Like, it's probably, even with 3 players, it's 90 minutes, I would say. Maybe not. Maybe it's 75 minutes with 3 players. With 4, it's definitely 90 to 2 hours. It's a lengthy game. It's a meaty game that also it's a meaty game that doesn't feel too thinky. It's thinky, but it doesn't feel it. I don't know how to explain it. And I think that's a very difficult thing to ask a publisher to look at. Like, kind of the medium weight games they're not big sellers. You know, these are small print run games, and this one it fits that mold, kind of. Like, that type of player would enjoy this, but this is a little bit out of the box because of the random resource gathering. And the theme. I mean, the theme is pretty dry and boring. That's a big ask. Now, the Viking game. I got the Viking game in finally. This is the first time I've seen the board. I didn't even print the board myself to look at it in person. The Viking game has a nice little 6-fold board. And basically, there's decks of cards that go on all of these square spots. Up here you have the village, the town, and the city, which you go raiding, and you get cards from them. And the village, they each have, like, the cards kind of get better, or not necessarily better, but the cards in the 4 deck are like the cards that you want to get early in the game, and the cards in the 8 deck are cards that you want to get later in the game. And you get those by buying ships, and then these ship cards, these are little cards. You assign them to these areas, and then we have raids. This game rocks. It's a really good game, and I'm not going to be shy about that. It's a great game. The problem is, I would classify it as a medium-ish weight game, probably more like a light medium. Like, it is an engine building game, so there are 4 decks of cards that are pretty beefy. You know, this is the number 6 deck. I think there's probably about 80 cards in this deck. So there's about 80 cards in each of the decks. And all of these cards have some text on them that require you to, you know, that give you special abilities or unlock special actions throughout the course of the game. They might do something if your opponents do something. They might do something if you do something. So it is a kind of a, you know, right smack dab in the middle of a medium weight game. That, you know, here's the problem. I'll tell you the biggest issue with this game. The reason I'm going to have a hard time selling this game to a publisher is the components. You've got, in my hope and dream is by the time I am done with this prototype, there's about 200-ish unique cards split between the 3 decks. You've got player meeples. You need at least 12. I'm currently testing with 12. This might go up to 15 and up to 5 colors. You need some sort of money. I made money tokens. Unfortunately, I didn't color these very well. They're all intended to be silver, and I didn't make the 1s and the 5s very different, so that does kind of suck. You need 30 something or other tokens. They're called blessings. They have a picture of Mjolnir on them. You need the 4 decks. I forgot about the folk deck. The folk deck is only about 60 cards, so you got that. And then here's the kicker. You need about 50 dice, and they're custom, between 2 different types. There's a white die and a green die. The problem with the game is, if you don't use this many dice, if you don't have players simultaneously rolling the dice to gain resources, so the dice are what get you resources, if you only have 1 set of dice, you could technically play this game with 10 dice. And each player would roll their dice, gather their resources, and pass the dice around the table. It just takes way too long. It takes way, way too long. The old version of the game, you took your whole turn, and then the next person took their turn. And we went around the table like that. And that works. I mean, it's a playable game, but there's a long break between turns, and there's really nothing that you need to pay attention to when your opponents are taking their turns. The closest thing that you have to pay attention to now is that board where people are putting their ships. And so, you know, there is a little bit of vying there. Like, I'm going to try to position my ships for better return. But other than that, what they're doing on their turn has very little to no impact on you. And so, if you're playing with 1 set of 10 dice, it's really boring. You're just sitting there, right? So I decided for this version of the prototype, I didn't make 50 dice. I made, I think there's only 40 in here. There's enough for 4 players. It's technically, I don't think you would need 40 dice. Each player starts with 5. So with a 5-player game, you'd have to have 25 dice. And then there are the options of gaining bonus dice. And so the maximum dice a player could roll is 10. So in theory, if everybody maxed out their bonus dice, you would need 50 dice. But the chances of that happening are slim to none. At most, I think, even in a 5-player game, you might use maybe 15 extra dice would be a good number. So like 40 dice total. But that's pushing it. Like, what happens if it does go over? Then you have to wait on somebody to finish rolling their dice so that you can roll your dice, and then we're back to the same issue we had a moment ago, where we're. And so that's the problem with the game. I have worked on a version of this game now for something like 20-ish years. I have worked on a random resource, a rolling resources game for about 20 years, and I've never been able to get it to work until now. This works really, really well, but this works really, really well because this is hinged on having all of those extra dice, and that is a huge component cost. It also has, I forgot to show you, it also has resources. So not only does it have 40 dice, it has wooden resources, and you need quite a bit of these, actually. This is probably not enough of each of the resources. I think I purchased like maybe 30. You probably need more than this. I mean, these could be cardboard. Most of these things could be cardboard. These would need to be, right now these are just playing cards. They need to be cardboard because they get handled a lot, and they're really fiddly at that size. Component cost is the killer on this game. And I think that that's going to make a lot of publishers, just go, that's not for me, right? And I get it. I understand that. So all 3 of these games have an issue, have something that I feel is going to hold them back. But at the same time, as I've said before, I'm still stupid excited about showing them to people. If nothing else, all 4 of these games fill a void in my collection, and I am able to produce them at an affordable price to me. And even if they just exist as one-offs forever, that's fine. I'm going to keep working on them, regardless of whether I find a publisher or not. So I'm excited. The only thing I have left to do is make a video for each. I'm going to record a video, and then I've had some people ask if I'm going to make sell sheets. No, I don't do sell sheets. Sell sheets are just wasteful, in my opinion. Both as a designer and as a publisher who has taken sell sheets, they're just a waste of time. Don't make them. My recommendation would be, if you pitch to a publisher and a publisher asks you for a sell sheet, that is kind of a polite way of saying, I'm not really interested in this, but maybe I'll pass this information along to somebody else. Ask them, instead of giving them a sell sheet, ask them for an email address and tell them that you'll email them information. And that way, if nothing else, you have their contact information for future games, and you're not just handing them a piece of paper that they're going to lose or throw away. I just don't think sell sheets are worth your time. That's me. So there's the prototypes. I'm super excited about it. I was hoping to be able to shoot a video for 11 today, but I still haven't received all the components. And the campaign launches tomorrow, so I'm going to do a bunch of content tomorrow for 11. If you're excited about that game, come back and check it out tomorrow, and I'll let you see how it works. Thank you for being here as always. Thank you for liking, commenting, subscribing, being amazing friends and wonderful people. I really appreciate you, and I will see you again tomorrow. Today's word you should know to sound smart is hierarchy. It is a noun meaning a pecking order or ranking according to status or level of authority. In the hierarchy of the military, a medical doctor who is assigned to the rank of captain but is not a military man automatically outranks a lieutenant who may have had years of battle experience. Hierarchy. Hierarchy. I didn't know that the medical doctor assigned the rank of captain. I didn't know that they just got assigned a rank. I thought medical professionals in the military were still ranking officers, like actual officers. That's news to me.